Welcome back, my friends, to the ecoChristian podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Cray Haynes. We're exploring together what it means to be Christian on planet Earth. And y'all, I just had a wonderful weekend talking creation care with some really great folks around Washington, D.C., and it's just so good. And we talked about everything from Leviticus to Ezekiel and garbage theology and getting in the river. So much fun. And man, that drive from Nashville to Virginia, through Virginia up there, y'all, if you haven't gotten in on that action, it's what's up. Especially if you can go through maybe the Shenandoah National Park, the Bluegrass, the Blue Ridge Parkway, not the Bluegrass Parkway is something else. If you know, you know. But yes, it's just a little slice of Himmel auf Erden, as my German friends would say, heaven on earth. And so good. Although if you're on the highway, there's a bit of a food desert situation, and there's like a handful of subways that are connected to gas stations, and so lots of random barbecue places. Yeah, just be on the lookout. So, all that to say, had a great time hanging out with some wonderful folks, talking to some churches up there. If you're interested ever in having me hang out with your congregation or communion sometime, shoot me an email and we'll have some fun together. All those kind of links are below to connect, but I'd love to connect with you. On a different note, I'm sure you're aware and have seen how Pope Francis recently passed, and y'all, there's just no way to say how much good he achieved for the work of earth care in the church, and so much. He wrote 2 encyclical letters, which are just so well done and articulated and really spurred on so much change that, and I'm not Catholic, and most of the congregation I work with aren't Catholic, but it's just also helpful still, and started so much movement in the Catholic Church as well, obviously. And so today, as a resource for you to check out, if you haven't seen it or you've heard of it, but just kind of dog-eared it for later, never gotten into it, but there's this documentary that was released after Pope Francis wrote the first encyclical letter, Laudato Si, on care for our common home. And the documentary is just called The Letter, A Message for Our Earth. And if I'm not mistaken, you can just watch it for free. It's got its whole website. There's just a lot of good material from that. And it tells the story of a journey to Rome on a frontline leaders to discuss the letter with Pope Francis, and this kind of exclusive dialogue, which is really insightful. So yeah, I'm going to link that below because I think that's a good way to remember and honor Pope Francis and kind of continue the work that he began and did in the church. And so, really good stuff. Okay, today I'm sharing a conversation I had with author Maureen Wise. Maureen has released a devotional called Strength for My Path, 52 Devotions from the Hiking Trail. So we get into her work there, and we talk about that, and we take a few rabbit trails into other topics and just have a fun conversation. So, hey, I'm excited to share. So, ecoChristian listeners, here we go. Welcome back, my friends. And I'm with my new friend, Maureen. Is that how you say your name? Am I saying it right?
Yep.
Okay, nailed it. Maureen Wise here is talking to me today about her new book, Strength for My Path, 52 Devotions from the Hiking Trail. I love that. So welcome, Maureen.
Thanks. So happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad you reached out. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Let me share a bit of your bio, and we can just kind of jump in. So, as it says, you've worked in stream restoration and higher education sustainability, and you're now working as a sustainability consultant. Really cool. Again, you live in the Cleveland suburb with your young son, your husband, and 3 cats.
Too many cats.
Yeah, you're farming cats, and it says that you write cozy mysteries and other novels under the pen name Iris March. That's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. I feel like before we do anything else, I gotta know more. I need to know about the mystery novels. What kind of stuff is that? Like, give us some titles or things that you've done.
So cozy mysteries are a mystery, but not like bloody, not uh no gore on the page. Like there's always an amateur sleuth, not a police detective or something. I mean, certainly there is a police detective, but the main character is an amateur sleuth. It's usually a lady, it's usually set in a small town. Um
Ooh.
Frequently like a little pet that's adorable and sometimes helps find the murderer. And there's no like sex or violence in them either. And so mine is set at a garden center with, oh, surprise, a hiking trail behind it, and people keep dying on the trail.
Ooh. I'm already sold. I'm already sold. So, like, mystery novels for people who, like, have 3 cats and are just, like, cozy mysteries. I love that.
Yeah.
If that's a thing, I've never heard of it before now, but I'm realizing now that, that's what I need.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite genre to read, and I like, I'll read something else, like, right now I'm reading, some sci-fi that my husband really wanted me to, The Murderbot Diaries. I don't know if
Mm,
you've heard about that. They're
yeah.
really funny, but I keep expecting people to be lying to me because I think there should be a mystery to be solved here, but there's not. It's just a story. So
I
I'm always, reading as a mystery reader. It's kinda funny.
So, the guy who wrote Jurassic Park,
Oh, yeah.
Michael Crichton,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, have you read I don't know why this just popped into my head right now 'cause my thought process was like, I wonder if she could do, like, a mystery novel, meets, like, anyway, this my brain's going places.
Say that it's an eco-friendly garden center, and
Ooh, okay.
the whole thing is, like, the main character is, composting and Meatless Monday and, always mentioning eco-friendly things she's doing because I can't not do that. I don't know, I just
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go warrior lady and yeah.
No, I got
Ah,
you, I got you.
the Drexel is like the environmental statement, you know?
Yes, yeah. Well, so I recently went back and read that novel recommended to me by Michael Crichton, and it's called like The State of Fear, and it was written like in like 2000 2001. But there's a lot of murder and stuff that happens in it, but it's all about climate change. But I was really, spoiler alert, I was really disappointed in the end because it felt like the book, like he was really just trying to frame like climate change as like a cover up and this sort of thing that wasn't really real in any way. You're like, oh, come on, bro. But love the dinosaur stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
anyways, totally side thing. So wow, that sounds really cool. So what's the title of your cozy mystery?
So it's the Succulent Sleuth Cozy Mystery Series, and there are, I guess 3 short stories and 2 novels so far. I'm working on the 3rd novel,
Wow. Oh my
um,
word.
called The Broken Bridge.
You're busy.
Yeah, well, it's fun. I don't know. Once I started writing, I kind of feel like I can't stop anymore. There's always words that wanna come out, stories and now devotionals that just aren't leaving me alone.
The creative spirit within us.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay. Well, yes. I know we're here to talk about Strength for My Path, and I'm excited listeners to hear about that and hopefully hike along on that 52 devotion. I guess you could just churn it out, however quick you want, but
I'm intuiting that it's supposed to last you the year. But before we jump into that, tell us more about your background, maybe your quote unquote, as I like to say, your eco-Christian story, and just kind of how you got more into this intersection.
So I don't know that I have a eco-Christian story, like a fantastic one. I know that that's kind of always who I've been, right? Like in high school, I was the person that was always, hey, you really should recycle this in this bin, and like think about doing this differently, and was like helping my parents figure out the whole recycling because it was new when I was in high school. I'm sure that's aging me, but it was a new thing when I was in high school to recycle, and I was a biology major and an English major, like, I had a double major, and my, biology major was more of an environmental focus, and, so what I guess the thing that really helped me mesh together, thinking about God and environmental stuff together was my and he's gonna be so tickled about this. My biology professor, who was my advisor, Dr. Chuck McClarity, who I went to Costa Rica with for a summer semester, and um, he was a Christian that was a biology professor that, helped people learn about the environment, and I think he was just a really big inspiration to me, and he's still like, I still keep in touch with him. He, is really like, he's definitely read this devotion and is really excited for
Cool.
so he really helped me think that they can go together well, and I have this really strong memory of when I was working in stream restoration, we had to go outside and do all this, water sampling, and so it was, middle of the winter in the snow or, 90 degrees in the summer,
Mm.
but, in the spring and fall, it was much more pleasant, but I have this really strong memory of taking some water samples. I was at this orange stream where because there was abandoned coal mines, so it was and I'm sure in Tennessee you're familiar with abandoned coal mines. We were doing restoration work to help the stream not be orange anymore and not acidic, and we were taking water samples to see how our restoration project was doing, to see how it was changing the water, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and the trees had green leaves on them, and I just was like, "Gosh, this is the best job," right? Like, I love being outside, I love, you know, changing the way the environment is working here, and I was just, like, humming worship songs from church in my head, and I was just like, "Yeah, God made all of this, and yeah, we messed it up, but we're helping fix it," and I just remember thinking that God would be really happy with what we were doing, and, worshiping God in nature just has always felt really right to me,
Yeah.
and I think that just being outside and thinking about God too helped cement all of it in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I really appreciate that there's kind of a grounding there, especially for you in this moment that you experienced worshiping God out while you're literally working toward restoration and creation and cleaning up this stream bed. And I think because that usually there's a whole other conversation over here, soapbox I get on sometimes around worship and how we talk about worship, how we define worship, and how we usually think about worship as just this one thing or singing songs or
Mhm.
kind of these funny ideas we have about heaven that we're just gonna sing forever and so forth and so on,
Right, right.
which I think some people would be okay. Like, I know some people who'd be like, "I'd be down for that." But I think for most of us, we're like, "Okay, we're gonna have to, like, there's a water break." But anyway, so I think that cleaning up that stream bed, that is worship and that's
Mhm.
a big part of why I like your book and that we can try to encourage people with these kind of conversations of say and scripture backs that up. It's like, look, caring for creation, man, that's worship as well. That's all God. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So your book, it says from the hiking trail.
Mhm.
So yeah, is there more like are you a big hiker? Do you do
Yeah, so So, like I said, I had to be outside for work every week, a couple times a week, and then when didn't have that job anymore,
Mhm.
I really missed this required outside time, and so when our kiddo was little, he's 13 now, and, when he wasn't, like, in school or anything, he and I would very frequently go on hikes because that's what I wanted to do, right? And we would meet friends to go hiking, and now, very frequently, me and my husband and kiddo go on hikes outside. We live the Cleveland Metro Parks and also the, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, uh,
Oh, wow.
here in Ohio. So we do a lot of hiking, and we went, this summer, we went to Arches and Canyonlands in Utah, which was, like, so otherworldly, so
Uh-huh.
big red rocks compared to the trees in Ohio. Um, so yeah, hiking is totally something that I love to do. And and yeah, so I will say that we went to California a few years ago, and I think that hiking through the redwood trees,
Oh, man.
really inspired this book. And I wrote a post for, oh my gosh, for BioLogos,
Cool.
and wrote about church, the force being church. And so that when I wrote that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I could do this so much more." So
Yeah.
I talked to my agent, and we got the idea for a hiking devotional. Yeah.
Mm, that's really cool. And the redwoods, though, like, man, it's just
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. We go on vacation to hike, right?
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Like, I mean, to me, that's a mark of, I often talk about the kind of marks of the quote unquote Anthropocene, this sort of like weird time that we live in. And that's kind of one of those things, like where we get in our car and we drive somewhere across the world to a place, then we put on different shoes in order that we like walk around that part of the earth and come back. Yeah. And yeah, this is our time. So yeah, really cool. I was recently talking with this a friend, and he was telling me how his wife is like in this kind of like church hiking club, and I was like, "Oh, I might be down for that," and I was like, "So what does that look like?" And he was like, "Oh, well, they took a trip out to the Grand Canyon, and we're doing like 45 miles a day." And like, and I was, and it's, yeah, and I'm just thinking, okay, well, is there another hiking club for like middle-aged dads who like, are into crepes and, I'm like a 25 miles in a weekend once a year, kinda pace.
Right.
Anyway, I do really enjoy hiking though, and, especially the Smokies. You ever come down to the Smokies?
No, I haven't. My sister went on vacation down there, last summer, and she said it was really beautiful, but I have not. No.
Oh, man, well, put that on your bucket list, people. Actually, I've recently heard that the Smokies is, like, the most visited national park, particularly in the fall, and so, anyway, get it on your calendar, all the secrets out now.
Oh,
So,
mm.
anyway, do you feel like you're more of a destination hiker or a journey hiker? Does that make sense in life?
Yeah, no, I'm just happy to be outside in the woods. I don't care. If
Yeah.
there's a waterfall to get to, that's great, but
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
that's
Yeah.
that's what's up. That's my jam. Just sit me on a log. We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about, your book and thinking about connecting it, with these different sort of scriptural highlights that you use throughout your book. And also I really appreciate kind of the end of each section has kind of like this, did you know, kind of moment as well. Talk to me about more of some of these connections that you're making between hiking and things that are not just hiking, but just being outside and these sort of, I guess, as you're sort of writing this book and reading scripture, like what are some of the things that began sort of surfacing for you in the text, whether in the life of Jesus or in other places that have felt the most meaningful?
So there are, 52 different topics. So it's a lot of different things that I hope everyone can find their little favorite topic in there. The one that I think of as well, I have numerous favorites.
Yeah, let's hear them all. Whatever you want to share.
Well, okay, so let's say the very favorite is the first one, and it has this. You know what? I moved my. There we go.
Oh yeah, hold that up. I obviously, listeners, you can't see this, and I've only seen the digital copy, but that's a really beautiful book.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
I love how that turned out.
Embossed with topo lines. Like this gold foil. Like,
Just feel it with your ears, people. Just feel it with your ears.
and it's got a little ribbon. It's so beautiful. But so I was trying to hold out to show the back that has the Bible verse that Jesus himself would often slip away to the wilderness and pray. And that's Luke 5:16. And that's not the only verse where Jesus is mentioned going into nature to talk with God and kind of get away from, all the people that are hanging on to him and even just his disciples, right? He wanted to be alone with God outside. And that is something I think that we should, follow his example and try to get outside and not just go for a hike, but think about faith while we're there and then spend some time in prayer or worship, whatever, thinking about God, thinking about who he is and goodness, the beauty around us. And I think thinking about God and nature in nature is kind of transformative of, what you think about both topics. Um, and so this is the very first devotion is about that Jesus valued time in nature. And so that one is my favorite for sure.
It's funny today to consider, again, we're kind of already talking about it, but that we have this quote unquote sport called hiking. But in Jesus' day, hiking is just what it meant to live. And so if you ever look at those maps in the back of your Bibles, or a lot of Bibles, and it sort of traces maybe all the places that we know Jesus traveled. But that's just in the 3 short years we know about, right? Jesus did all that on foot, right?
Right.
With sandals.
Probably got, yeah.
Yeah. And so for people in Jesus' time, there wasn't, I think there wasn't, right, obviously this hard line of outside and inside. What we think, maybe what we often consider today, or divide sort of the quote unquote natural, the unnatural world, as much as we have that sort of divide today. And so, and yet, even in the midst of that, there are these texts. And I know, if anyone is even slightly familiar with the biblical story in the Gospels, where it says Jesus went off to these wild places.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that just sort of strikes your heart, doesn't it? It's there's so much there, I think, for us to consider of if this is part of what it looks like to follow Jesus today. What does that mean for us as Christians to kind of follow Jesus into these wild places to pray? Yeah, I think that's one of the things I really like about your work here.
Thanks.
Yeah, talk to me more about that or some other ones that kind of really stuck out for you.
So there's also one about sunsets. No, I'm sorry, sunrises that I like a lot. I'm thinking about I was trying to find it. I should have marked it, but I did not. My kiddo and I are going through it right now, and I know that we did it recently. But it's thinking about God being new every morning and just when you're hiking and trying to find a sunrise, it makes it so much more special, right? Like when you're intentionally looking for the sunrise, uh, it's a little different than just looking out your window in the morning. And so that's another kind of making nature special and appreciating what God made. And because, our built environment, it can be certainly beautiful and is really important and it makes everyone safe and everything. But just what is outside, like you're saying, is what more what God made, and it's just something different to appreciate. And I think intentionally appreciating it gives you like a new sense of awe of what God made, right? Like, and how much he made, how creative he was. Um,
Yeah.
Another favorite of mine is about the stars, and because I've always been a space geek, and I used to want to be an astronaut when I was little, like really hardcore. Wanted to be an astronaut when I was not even little, but a kid,
Nice.
um, and so thinking about space too makes me just so much in awe of God and how big it is, and not only did he like number the stars, he knows the stars, he made the stars, and thinking about how that's so different than our Earth, and every single speck of our Earth is so different from every other place on Earth. Is God is just so amazing and made everything so differently.
Mm.
Earth made everything so different.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I really appreciate what you're saying too about, the sunrise and like, there's a difference between just seeing it from your window and inside your insulated box or whatever, wherever you live, and again, like that's why I think that these little, tugs of like, hey, come outside, create a create a rhythm, a devotional rhythm within the quote unquote natural world as much as possible. Like what would it look like for us all to retreat into these wild spaces to encounter creation? Because I think that there's something there underneath as well that's like we're used to being in control.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're in our home, we're typically kind of in control of that environment,
Hey,
and like from the thermostat to the sofa to the hot food or whatever it is to the amount of lighting. But when you go in the natural, quote unquote, natural world, it's like a relinquishment of control.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, that's kind of what I feel like I'm maybe drawing out of our conversation a little bit right now. Of like, what does it mean to sort of like give creation permission to maybe sound weird, but like touch you? You know what I'm saying? Like we wanna participate in creation on our own time. We wanna touch it, wherever we wanna, feel it and hear it and eat it or whatever. What does it look like? If you're sitting outside, sun's gonna hit you. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna get rained on or whatever. Like not on your clock, not on your time. And so I don't know. I just wonder. Like I think that something, there's something meaningful about those experiences of just saying, did Jesus ever retreat to a wild place to pray and get rained on or bitten or whatever, and it's all these like factors. I think we romanticize time in nature, and I think that that's probably something that we should check ourselves on sometimes as well. But
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah.
anyway, that was just sort of surfacing for me as you're sort of listing some of these things. But yeah, talk to me about too. This is something that I feel like so many of the Psalms do really well. Connecting us with the God who is creator. Yeah. How, do you try and kind of engage some of the Psalms in your work, and does that kind of inform some of this and thinking about worship with creation?
Yeah, so a couple, maybe 3, entries in the devotional are about it feels a little woo-woo to talk about it, but, like, thinking about creation worshiping God, right? Like, 'cause it really is shown in Psalms, and I really just opened to a random, devotion entry, and this one is from Psalm 96. "Let the heavens rejoice, let the earth be glad, let the sea resound and all that is in it, let the fields be jubilant and everything in them, let all the trees of the forest sing for joy, let all creation rejoice before the Lord." So, yeah,
Mm,
creation totally worships God, right? And I do think that being outside among, the trees or, maybe the beach or the mountains or the desert, whatever different ecosystem you're in, because certainly I keep saying I want to be in the woods, but that's because I'm in Ohio. Other places have different ecosystems. But I do think that it is kind of cool to think about yourself joining that worship of God with nature. I don't know that everyone thinks that's,
Yeah.
like I said, I feel a little woo woo, but I love to think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, like I think what creation challenges us with is opening our really boxed in framework around worship. And I think that's one of the things that this is probably not the right word I'm looking for, but I feel like in a lot of ways in our recent, modern theology, in a lot of ways, we've colonized the worship conversation, or we've at least anthropocentrized, if that's even a word, what it means to worship. And so, yeah, I think these psalms, man, just line them up, right? And God's creation, uh, created, yeah, of course, the stars and the trees.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like the more we learn, the more science is uncovering about soil and trees. And I don't know if you've read like The Secret Life of Trees and all these books. You're wow, like, wow. I'm not gonna say it's like a Tolkien novel, and they're gonna, all of a sudden we got Treebeard happening, but there's for sure more life happening in the created world. Again, and not to say someone has to have a voice with hands and arms in order to worship, but like worship creation as God created it to be worships. And so, I'm all over that. I think that's wonderful.
No, I just said I'm glad you agree with me because yeah, I really like thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's taboo at all. That's what's up. Yeah, I wonder if there's something else or what's something maybe you felt like in the process of writing this book that you learned, right? I mean, that would be a challenge for anybody, I think, to sort of like that's some work, 52 devotionals, and I really appreciate the time you've spent here and thinking through these and drawing these out and crafting this cool devotional. Yeah, what's something maybe in that process that you felt like you learned writing this book?
Um, Thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say. You know what I haven't said yet is that this isn't the first devotional I've written. I have a creation care devotion
What?
that is not yet published. That's why I have an agent to get that book published, and
So cool.
no one has picked it up because they feel like it wouldn't sell.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and so my agent and I are, like, trying to find smaller presses, different publishing houses that would maybe take a risk, which just feels so ridiculous to me that it's a risk, right? Like,
Yeah,
people care about the environment, and
totally.
so it's really frustrating to me.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here, folks. Maureen's got work that needs published, so somebody come grab this. This is what's up. Okay.
But so when a couple years ago, when we were both just really frustrated that we were not finding a publisher, and I was like, you know what, I've got more in me. I've got more, because that one is all about how to care for the earth, like my cozy mystery, like more like instructional. Not that the cozy mystery is instructional in any way, and not that that one. It's more connecting how, you know creation care and with faith, like care for creation with faith. But this one, I said to her, I really have so much more to say about nature, and I really am so inspired by the woods and thinking about God outside. And I said, how about a hiking devotional? And she was like, there aren't a lot of hiking devotionals that have like bigger publishers. So she said, let's go for it. Go ahead and write some ideas." And I really just like flew off my fingertips. Like it was not hard work for me at all.
Oh, that's when you know.
Yeah, and so like I thought of 60 because I we thought that would be the number they would want. I came up with 60 ideas, like connecting the scripture with an idea. And then I think I wrote like 6 initially. And then really within like 3 months, we found this is Broad Street Publishing, and they really make beautiful books. And so we were really thrilled that because it's so beautiful, like the exterior of it. And so they only wanted 52, so I have extra.
Yeah.
Is that it was I felt like it was not a hardship. It came out real easy and real quick because, I'm so inspired by nature, and I really do think it's more of almost a nature devotional than a hiking trail. I think it's just like the hiking trail is the way to get into nature, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how
It's the way in.
it should be in nature, really. Like you shouldn't be like trespassing on someone's land or like
Right.
going in the nature or going in the national parks without where you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that because I think that we kind of need to lower the paywall on what we think of, and I know that how you're trying to connect people with creation and worshiping God, because obviously hiking we think of one thing, we think of like the boots and the journey in the national parks and the whatever the gear is, but it's not that at all, right? It's just like this could be just walking down your street. Right, this could be this could even be I'm gonna like I think this could at least even be in an urban setting if that's just where you're at because there actually is no such thing that exists that is not God's creation. Although, we've reshaped it and formed it and it might be a struggle in Times Square, to be honest, but work with what you have. And I think that's kind of maybe some of the work that you're drawing out here. And this is what does it look like to just cultivate that habit of seeing yourself out in the natural world, taking these walks, but by all means visit the redwoods
Yeah.
because man, so good. What would be a great partner is like get partner with some like the ranger stations and stuff. This would be a good, like really good like ranger station devotional. Anyway, you mentioned that. Sorry, I just sort of I feel like I'm tangenting everywhere with our conversation here, and I
I
apologize.
feel like I keep not quite answering your questions too. Sorry.
No, you're doing great. I'm just like it's sparking something, and then I'm going nuts, and so I'm sorry. But one of the things that you said, and you're sort of naming that difference in informational kind of devotional or like action oriented devotional and what I feel like this is, and I know readers haven't gotten the book yet or read it or anything, but it is more like I'm gonna say like the cozy mystery devotional for field guide for nature and I really appreciate that because yeah, what's underneath is one hand, it seems so basic, but it's something today is so needed to retether that which I believe was never meant to be severed, that is like humanity's close connection with the earth, particularly as it has to do with being people created in the image of God, right? And so not to see faith as something that has nothing to do with the natural world, but that is sort of wrapped deeply into God's great salvific drama. And so I feel like I appreciate that this devotional is very like priestly in nature, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I think so much of the writings, even on this sort of faith eco intersection, can feel overwhelming sometimes, and it can feel more from the prophets category, if that makes sense. I know
Hmm.
not everyone's familiar with sort of the priest and prophet juxtaposition, but this I feel like your devotional feels a lot more priestly,
Mhm.
and I think that's a really needed space as well here. It's like, hey, let's connect with God, Scripture, and consider ourselves as we are created, interwoven with this sort of natural world. And does that feel accurate? I don't want to describe your work in the wrong way, but that's kind of how it feels to me a little bit.
So yeah, I definitely don't want people to feel like they have to be on a hiking trail to enjoy nature, right? Like what you're saying about being in the city and enjoying nature is totally accurate, right? I think that this is trying to help you appreciate what you can see where you are. Like there are little pocket parks everywhere, right? Like it doesn't have to be this wild place, this wild untouched place. It totally can be your neighborhood park or your backyard or, the green space behind your apartment. It doesn't have to be in this set aside, national park or whatever. Um and I feel like I'm not sure what you mean about profit. I thought I did what you start talking about. Hey, no, I'm not sure anymore. But
Yeah. No.
like totally that like I am not the best at reading nonfiction, and I have read or I've started to read lots of like the kind of more scientific bigger thoughts, eco-Christian books, and I don't get through them at all, right? Like
Yeah.
I have intentions to, and then I don't. So yeah, this is definitely like, oh, you could read this, 600 words a day or 600 words every week. It's definitely
Yeah.
smaller chunks to read slower.
Yes, yes, and that's what I was getting to, and we were talking about earlier, is that I think like there's so much good fodder here in this sort of intersection that this podcast is about, but so much of it just feels overwhelming and inaccessible and TMI, and so how can we draw arms and legs down from some of these ideas and conversations and deep material into sort of a tangible episode. And in this case, I feel like, this really tangible devotional guide to, that's not necessarily, and kind of what I meant by the prophet, like, it's not necessarily about like how to do justice in the world, as much as like how to retreat in prayer, with God who is the creator. And that's and I think that that's a very needed thing, and what often we do need from sort of a nature guide devotional. And so yeah, anyway, I just appreciate that, and so and the offering that is your book. So is there anything else that you wanted to share about your work?
I started to think about listing a few of the other topics in the book because like I said, I kind of want people to think that there's there's something for everyone in it. Because like I said, it's not meant for like a special few people that can get to the national parks because we only have one that we can drive to. Maybe if you're like out west where you have all these really interesting geological formations that are set aside, you can get to so many at once, but we can't get to national parks very quickly. So other than the one. So I really, when I was writing this, was trying to think of all the different ecosystems, and I was also trying to think of people with different abilities and backgrounds, because I want it to be inclusive for everyone. And so there's even a devotion that is talking about hiking with the senior and hiking with kids because they have such different mobilities and attention spans than we do, right? Um, but so there's like some about wetlands and beaches and like I was saying, space
Yeah.
and just thinking about nature more than necessarily definitely the hiking trail. I'm definitely connecting it to the hiking trail. So people that are hikers would definitely appreciate it. But I do think that it's for anyone that appreciates nature or wants to appreciate nature.
That's great. And I think if people are honest, like, we all probably have some part of the creative world that is our favorite that has sort of been an on ramp, an easier on ramp for us into worship. And I know that I have those memories and I have those places, and I was just I was just recently like sitting at my kitchen table and heard these birds chirping, and on one hand I was like, I feel like this is not the time of the year these birds are supposed to be out here because it's a very sort of like spring sound, but at the same time I was like, that's good. But yeah. Well, thank you, Maureen. I really hope that people connect with your work and that we hear more from you and that you continue your faithful work here in this intersection. So
Thank you.
Thanks, friends, for listening. please leave us a star or 2 or 3 if you can. Write a review. Send this to your mama. Again, if you just want to get these episodes straight to your inbox, hit me up on Substack. It's a free way to connect, but it's also a great place to support the show financially, as you might feel led to do. So thankful connecting with you all. Until next time, friends, grace and peace.